Good evening. It's 8 o'clock. I'm Xolim Gambi. We're coming to you live from Johannesburg. In your headlines tonight, lobbyists welcome the Constitutional Court's ruling which legalizes lighting up a spliff, but you're only allowed to smoke dagga within the confines of your home. A disturbing video shows just how out of hand school pupils have become. And a Cape Town father is left devastated after 3 children and his wife die in a shack fire. We begin here. South Africans can smoke a joint, but only in private. The use of dagga in public will remain prohibited. Today, the Constitutional Court upheld the Western Cape High Court judgment, which declared legislation criminalising the use, possession, purchase and cultivation of cannabis unconstitutional. Kailihle Khumalo has the full story.
In its judgment, this court concludes that A, Section 4B of the Drugs Act is unconstitutional and therefore invalid to the extent that it prohibits the use or possession of cannabis by an adult in private for that adult's personal consumption in private.
Dagga activists could not contain their jubilation inside the corridors of the highest court in the land. Now Parliament has 2 years to fix constitutional defects in laws governing the use of marijuana, such as the Drug Trafficking Act of 1992 and the Medicines and Related Substances Control Act of 1965.
Today's judgment is a vindication for the Rastafari community and the cannabis community that we deserve the right to be who we want to be here in our own homeland, to make use of the tobacco of the indigenous people of this country. And the judgment today represents a victory for choice.
But in light of the landmark judgment, there are still some questions about enforcement.
So what is private use? How much is private use? And if you are caught with X amount of dagga in your possession, how much is private and how much is going to be dealing or otherwise? So there is quite a lot of work to do, but we hope and pray that the South African Police Service actually move on now.
And what about the argument that this judgment may worsen the scourge of social ills in the country?
The cannabis community in South Africa are peaceful, we're non-violent, we're loving, we support each other, we've been through hell with prohibition.
At the same time, others are calling for the scope in terms of the use of dagga to be widened.
If you have a problem, an antiseptic, we have a wound, a bleeding wound, you are able to use it as an antiseptic. You are able to also use cannabis also for religious observations, which I think a lot of us would know. And also, there are quite a number of hepatitis. You can use cannabis for hepatitis. You can use cannabis also for diabetes.
Meanwhile, Parliament has noted the judgment and it says a new bill could be introduced to effect the court order. Kailihle Khumalo, Johannesburg.
School violence has continued to make news in recent days, and now a shocking video has surfaced. Just a warning, the following visuals are of an extremely violent nature and may not be suitable for children to watch. This video of a scholar in Mpumalanga assaulting a driver has gone viral. It shows a 19-year-old pupil shouting at the driver and hitting him while the bus is in motion. The driver was transporting scholars home at the time. It's believed the incident occurred last week and a case of assault has been opened. The pupil has since appeared in court and the school has instituted a disciplinary hearing. Another fire, this time in Cape Town, has claimed the lives of 3 children. The children's mother also died in the blaze which broke out last night. Atim Tongana spoke to the woman's distraught husband.
Zibele Mjila has lost his wife, 10-year-old son, 8-year-old daughter and 4-year-old son in a shack fire.
Busuke emsebenzini. So uve kanjani ukuba ukhona umlilo apha namhlanje?
Zibele and his 14-year-old daughter are the only remaining members of the family. The young girl was watching television at a neighbor's house and ran for help when the fire started.
These are the remains of the fourth body recovered here at the scene. Family members tell us that 3 of the other body remains were recovered last night.
The cause of the fire has not yet been determined.
It was so difficult because there was a burglar bar. In the burglar bar, it was so difficult to open it. And then we get a child, a firstborn of our neighbor. He told us that his mother and his siblings are on the upper level. So we tried to break down the fire, but we couldn't get it through there because the fire was so hectic. And then that's how we lost those siblings.
Police are now investigating this matter. Tim Tongana, Cape Town.
A court will meanwhile decide whether the guardians of the 4 children who died in a fire in Alexandra on Sunday can attend the funeral. 2 sisters appeared in the Alexandra Magistrates Court today on child negligence charges. The Ngubeni family is still coming to terms with the deaths of Nhlanhla, Mbali, Sandile and Amungelani. A memorial service will be held on Wednesday, followed by a funeral on Thursday. The 2 sisters will remain in custody until the 28th of September, when their bail application will be heard. Gauteng Social Development MEC Nandi Mayatula Khoza has called on parents to hand their children over to social services if they feel they can't take care of them. COSATU's largest trade union federation will be led by a woman for the first time, raising hopes that the fight for gender equality will be bolstered. Zingiswa Losi has been nominated unopposed as COSATU president. Reporter Liranzo Temba attended the second day of COSATU's 13th National Congress.
An activist, ex-soldier and leader, Zingiswa Losi stands unchallenged to lead COSATU. She's inheriting a shaky trade union federation that's bleeding members and struggling to stay relevant. The rest of COSATU's top leadership has been left unchanged, a move seen to try and bring stability to the federation. With the nomination of Losi, it will give hope to women seeking much-needed improvement in their working conditions and assist in the fight against gender inequalities. On the second day of COSATU's 13th National Congress, the third leg of the tripartite alliance added its voice in the federation's battles.
The issue of one country, one federation will not be realized through discussions in the boardrooms, but largely will be realized through concrete joint struggles on the ground. That is the challenge that faces this federation in engaging the rest of the labor movement.
Nzimande says the days of the ANC calling all the shots should be done away with.
Now, what do we mean by a reconfigured alliance? It's simple. We need an alliance that does not only work together when it's election time. It must be taking up issues of our people at all times.
Workers also debated the state of health of the Trade Union Federation through the Congress's organizational and financial reports. Liranzo Temba, Johannesburg.
The DA has announced that it has selected Den Plato to be the next mayor of Cape Town. The party's federal executive met earlier today and decided to implement a recommendation made by a selection panel. Now, Plato, who previously held the position, will replace Patricia de Lille, who leaves her position at the end of October. He is currently the MEC for Community Safety in the Western Cape. The DA, meanwhile, says DA leader Musa Maimane has declined a request to stand for the position of Western Cape Premier. Well, stay with us on eNews. A rocky start to Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa's first State of the Nation address. And Mike, you tracking the markets for us?
Yeah, that's right, Koli. The rand is on the comeback trail, but how long will it last? And can we avoid another rate hike? That's the big question. We'll crunch the numbers in a moment.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. So, Mike, what do we need to know from the world of business?
Some fascinating developments when it comes to oil today. Why is this important? Well, of course, oil prices feed into the price of fuel, and we've had some serious pain at the pump over the last few months. And if you take a look very quickly at that graph, that's the Brent crude oil price over the last 6 months, and you can see it just has been spiking month after month after month. Back in March, it was $66 to the barrel, and it touched close to $80 to the barrel a little bit earlier today, and that is not a good sign. Remember, we are expecting quite a sharp fuel price increase in October. If we very quickly take a look at the rand as well, the rand-dollar exchange rate is also feeding into this equation, and it was at 11.60 back in March and early April. It has gone higher than 15.30 during the course of the last few weeks. And of course, when the rand gets to those sorts of levels, it does make it even more expensive to buy oil in the first place. So two factors really feeding into this: a weak rand and a higher oil price. Not good news for South African motorists, and certainly not good news as we face a possible rate hike on Thursday when the Reserve Bank takes its decision.
Very, very important, Mike. And with that, how did the markets perform today?
Well, let's take a quick look at the markets. The JSE just scraping into a positive territory. It was in the red for most of the afternoon. Of course, the local market has been under pressure, with the emerging markets in the midst of a sell-off. We did see a slight dip in the industrials at the close of trade, but it's been a solid day for the mining stocks, that sector benefiting from relatively stable commodity prices. And speaking of those commodity prices, platinum making a comeback today, the spot price gaining as much as 3% at one stage. But as I mentioned, bad news for motorists, Brent crude edging towards $80 to the barrel. We didn't see major fluctuations during the day, but South Africans will want that figure as low as possible, with another fuel price hike looming large on the horizon. And finally, the rand looking a bit firmer today, the local unit trading between 14.85 and 14.90 in late trade. It has made some progress after touching 15 to the dollar yesterday, but remember, it was below 12 earlier this year. So looking at the big picture, the rand still under pressure as we head towards that decision by South Africa's Reserve Bank.
All right, thank you, Mike. Michael Morelia with that business update. On to other news now. And of course, members of the opposition MDC walked out of the State of the Nation address in Zimbabwe today. The MDC has been disputing the results of the recent polls, which were awarded to ZANU-PF after a court challenge. The opposition again registered their displeasure over what they say have been rigged elections during the speech. They walked out of Parliament in Harare while chanting leader Nelson Chamis's name. Inside Parliament, President Emmerson Mnangagwa announced that the Reserve Bank has negotiated a $500 million credit line to meet foreign currency requirements. Right after the break, we go to Joel Guy at our Weather Center for your live weather report. And then we'll tell you more about the billionaire who is planning to orbit the moon. Welcome back. All right, let's go to our weather center now, where Joel Guy is standing by. So, Joel, I'll tell you this much. In Gauteng, it's a scorcher. Talk to us about what the rest of the country looks like.
Well, we stayed with more or less the same kind of weather that we had on Monday. Hot over eastern South Africa, cloudy, wet and chilly over the western areas. Now, this is because we have been seeing a series of cold fronts passing through the western areas, and we still have two cold fronts that are set to control the weather over the western and southern areas as we go through Wednesday. Now, here's how we're going to start off Wednesday. We are going to have this second cold front hitting the southwest coastline, and through the day it will maintain cloudy, rainy and chilly weather over much of the Western Cape and the western areas of of the Northern Cape with a chance of light snowfalls over the Southern Cape interior. We will also start Wednesday with drizzly conditions along the KwaZulu-Natal coastal areas and the adjacent interior. It will be fine but chilly for the central areas and mild for eastern South Africa. Then in the afternoon, we are going to stay with wet weather over much of the Western Cape. The wet weather will spread into parts of the east coast, and it will be mostly sunny for the central and eastern areas. Once again, very hot for the eastern provinces with heatwave conditions persisting in Gauteng and parts of the Limpopo province. Then in the evening, it will stay fairly wet for much of the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal and the southeastern areas of the Mpumalanga province. Now let's take it closer to your part of the country. It's going to be mostly sunny for the eastern half of the Northern Cape, but with cooler afternoon temperatures compared to what we saw this Tuesday. Cold over the western areas where rain showers are expected for much of the day on Tuesday. And then in the Western Cape, it will be cloudy, rainy and chilly. Once again, most areas over the interior struggling to reach the lower teens. Cape Town will manage a high of around 15 degrees. We're also going to see rain showers for parts of the Eastern Cape. It's going to be chilly for the western sections, but mild for the northeastern parts where partly cloudy skies are expected. KwaZulu-Natal should also see isolated showers, especially in the morning along the coastal areas, spreading inland in the afternoon. The northeastern areas will stay partly cloudy and hot. Another sizzling hot day is forecast for much of Mpumalanga. Mbombela will stay stuck at the 38-degree mark. We are also going to stay with the very hot weather for much of Limpopo, highs staying in the lower 40s for Palabora, Musina and around Lephalale. A sunny and hot day is also forecast over much of the northwest, where highs in the mid-30s are expected. We are going to see more of sunshine than cloud over the Free State, Welcome and Bethlehem, peaking at around 29 degrees. Gauteng will continue to have heatwave conditions. Pretoria making it to 36 on Wednesday afternoon. Now on Thursday, we are going to have partly cloud and dry conditions for the western areas. It will be cloud and rainy in KwaZulu-Natal. And we end the work week with thundershowers extending from the Northern Cape through the Free State into parts of KwaZulu-Natal. That's all from the Weather Center for now. Have a great one.
All right, thank you, Joel. I wish I were in the province that you're in right now, in the Western Cape. Thank you to Joel Guy for that weather update. All right, finally, the highest flyer of the day is Japanese businessman Yusaku Misawa. He will be the first person to orbit the moon since the Apollo missions ended in 1972. Misawa was named by Elon Musk as the first successful bidder for a round-the-moon trip planned for 2023. Now, Misawa, who was a drummer in a punk rock band before launching online fashion retailer Zaza, says he will invite artists to go with him. Now, Musk is not revealing how much of a deposit Misawa paid, but he says it will go a long way in funding SpaceX's Big Falcon rocket. All right, let's recap your top stories this evening. Lobbyists welcome the Constitutional Court's ruling, which legalizes lighting up a spliff, but you're only allowed to smoke dagga within the confines of your own home. A disturbing video shows just how out of hand some school pupils have become. From me and the team, it's good night.